Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Developer Dynasty here on our Wolverine Studios Twitch channel. Really excited to be hanging out with you tonight talking about Draft Day Sports Pro Basketball 2022. If you've been following our previous Developer Dynasties, we've been going back and forth between Pro Football 22 and Pro Basketball 2022. And we've had a lot of great new additions to both games this year. Speaking of Pro Football 2022, the game was officially launched this week from WolverineStudios.com. So if you are looking for a great football management game, get over to WolverineStudios.com right now and pick up your copy of Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2022. If you're looking for it on Steam, it will be there sometime next week. We have the approval for a next week launch there on Steam. But tonight we're talking hoops. So as always, before we get started, huge thank you to all of our followers and our subscribers. We definitely appreciate you supporting the channel. And absolutely looking forward to your comments here in the chat. Looking for your feedback, looking for your suggestions, ideas, everything that that you want to talk about. Go ahead and throw it in the chat, and we'll cover everything that we can tonight. We're going to look at some exciting new features. A lot of them, that we're going to cover tonight are what I kind of call quality of life features, things that improve the game in small incremental ways, but added together, they do make a big difference for your overall experience. And then at the end of the stream, we're going to get to one thing that is a big new feature, a big new change that I'm just trying to be finishing up on, and we're going to kind of talk about some new ideas there. So let's start. I'm going to pull up the schedule here because I want to sim just a day and talk about some of the new things we've got going on here. You'll see that we've updated the sim page a little bit to make the graphics a little bit more clear and kind of a little bit more attractive there in the boxes. Kid Coffee, welcome to the stream. Good to see you again. So first up, we are going to take a look at I'm going to pull up one of these box scores here. And one thing that I've added, and again, a lot of these ads have been suggestions from our players. I mean, that's why the Developer Dynasty stream is so important, because we have the opportunity to discuss ideas in real time and kind of see what you're looking for and make improvements every week as we go through the development process. So on the box score page here, you'll notice down here at the bottom there is a new button that says View Game Chart. And if I click that up, it's going to bring up the kind of score as the game progressed. So for all the games that you sim, you can take a look back here and kind of get a feeling of how the game went. You can see, in this one, the Waves started off with an early lead, fell behind, kind of pulled close in the second quarter here. They were only down by 5 at that point, and then the Commodores pulled away as the game went on. So I think adding this game chart here gives you a feeling of being able to kind of understand how the game went for all the games that you simulate. Obviously, with 82 games in a season, that's a lot for anybody to try to watch each game by game. And with so much of the fun of the game being career based, with drafts and free agency and all that kind of stuff, everybody wants to play a lot of seasons. So I understand most of the people simulate the games out. That's how I would play it myself. And it's nice to be able to go back and look at kind of the flow of the game, even though I wasn't there to actually play it. So I'm going to sim a couple more days, give you another look at that kind of revamped sim screen. And again, we still have all the milestone trackers and stuff like that, and the different notifications at the bottom of the screen, which I think are really helpful, for playing. So moving over to the roster screen for a second, I'm going to go to the player card. We've talked about in earlier streams about the new personality types. That's been a big focus of the new game here and how those are going to play together. We're going to do much more on that after the game is kind of released and try to explain more of what's going on with there. But one addition here is to the game log screen. This looks pretty familiar, but you can see at the end of the row now there's a little icon here. That's going to take you to the box score for that particular game. So again, this is another community suggestion that came up last year, that you scroll through box scores and you see somebody had a really good game, and you want to see the full report from that game. You can click on that icon now, and it will take you to the box score for that game. And again, you click that game chart button. We're going to have to change that for the teams who have black as their primary color, obviously. But you can go back and see, everything that happened in that particular game. So I think that's kind of a nice addition as well. Seasoned Vet, good to see you here again as always. He asks, speaking of player traits, will there be any traits specifically for veterans that can help the locker room by simply being on the roster, like the Juwan Howard veteran presence types? That is going to be part of some of the traits, but it's not just going to be specifically for veterans. There's going to be certain players whose personality traits kind of allow them to maybe bring people together, I guess is a good way to explain that, and kind of mitigate some of the problems. They still will have their own, issues and things like that might upset them, but there are certain personality traits. I think we're up to 23 now in the game. There are certain ones of those that will act as kind of go-betweens between other players and help keep some of the other issues lower as you go through. Let me switch over to the game options screen because I want to talk about if you haven't been on the options screen before, by the way, definitely check it out, because there's a lot here that can help tweak things to your liking, I guess is the best way to say it. You can see some of the viewing options down here where you can change the dashboard. Instead of going by player position, you can organize them by last name. You can turn off the milestone messages if you don't like to see them doing that. Obviously options to change the lottery, to change the amount of injuries, or the 3-point attempt factor and the pace adjustment factor are good to use if you want to recreate a prior time in history. So if you want to recreate your league with back in the old days where there were no 3-pointers, you can turn the 3-point attempt factor all the way down to 0. If you want to play kind of at a faster pace, or you want to relive that era of the NBA where teams scored like 70 points a game, you can turn the pace adjustment factor way down. But the one new addition here that nobody's seen before is this option here to allow trades. This will, there was an ask last season about being able to play a season without allowing trades to take place. Again, that's it's something that I wouldn't do when I'm playing, because I think trades are an important part of the game. But there are some people who maybe want to replay just one season and don't want trades to impact the outcome, or they're simulating the same season over and over again to see some sort of statistical inquiry or something like that. So this will turning it off will prevent teams from making trades between the AI teams and also prevent you from being able to offer trades as well. It does not allow you to trade past the trade deadline, though. So if it's turned on, it's going to be under the normal rules where you can only trade until the trade deadline. And if you ever forget when those dates are, there's always this key dates option at the top of the screen, which will give you the dates of everything in the game when it will happen. So, the in-game trade deadline is February 8th. There's also, you'll see from time to time, this alerts icon up here will have a 1 or a 2, whatever. That's meant to be a reminder of something happening that day to you. So if you're new to the game, absolutely use those alerts, and they will help kind of guide you through what's going on. And if you're a veteran of the game and you just can't remember what day something happens, there's always the key dates option and the alerts to tell you what's happening on that particular day. I'm going to switch over to a different game real quick, talk about some other things. Kid Coffee Black asks, any way for expansion the first season? There is not currently a way to do that right now. There is the option to expand after the first season. And again, for anybody unfamiliar, you can expand upwards until you have a 32 team league. After that, no further expansion is allowed there. So you can see in this sim that I pulled up here that that alert box I was talking about, you click on the alert and it tells, today is time to fill coaching staff vacancies, and it tells you how to do it. So if you get stuck, if you're not sure what to do, always look to see if there's alerts for that day that kind of give you some in-game help. I've also thought about trying to make some video tutorials of some things and put them in there and put them up on our YouTube channel and maybe link to them from the main menu. So if there's, if you're, whether you're a new player and there's something you don't understand about the game, or if you're, a seasoned veteran of the game and you think there's certain things that you see get asked frequently about things, that would make a good, idea for a short video tutorial to include, let me know. You can either put them in the chat box here during the stream, or send me a message on Slack or the forums, or use our support ticket system to send in ideas for videos, or maybe if you have questions about something. I know a lot of people over the years have asked questions about the ratings. They didn't really understand what each rating does. They didn't understand why maybe somebody who had really high field goal ratings but a low scoring rating, why they didn't score very many points, because they didn't understand that the scoring rating is not their ability to efficiently score, but the ability to put the ball in the basket. They might have a high scoring rating but low field goal ratings, meaning that they're a really good scorer, but they're not a very effective scorer. So they take a lot of shots to get those points. So and I find I explain that maybe once a year to somebody. So ideas like that I'd like to put maybe in a video and have it as a reference for anybody who's playing the game. So if you have ideas about that, feel free to let me know, and we'll see what kind of help videos maybe we can include with the game. Hey Breeze, how's it going? What did you miss? Well, we've been talking about some new features. You can always catch the replay of the stream on YouTube or on Twitch later, and go back over those first few minutes. Another change that we've done is to the coach hiring stage here. I've added a new button, which is going to give you this button here says view style. It's going to allow you to see all of the information for their other ratings about how coaches prefer to play for pace, their defensive intensity, their philosophies about crashing the boards, their zone usage, and their use of full court defense. That was not information that was available before on this screen, and a lot of people have asked for something like that, where they said, well, I'm looking for a specific type of coach, and they got, they don't want to click on every, coach card to see, all of those preferences and stuff like that here. So you'll be able to sort through those just by clicking on view style. Obviously, view stats will still give you, their historical win-loss information, their ratings will show you their ratings, obviously, and the style now will give you a glance at everybody for, the things you're looking for. So if you're looking for a coach who's going to play things very fast, you can sort by, very fast, and then, find, this guy has a decent evaluation of offense. He's a good player developer, so I know he would fit my, my style that I'm looking for. So again, little ideas like this, they're not something that, it's a big thing we can put out there as a, a huge new feature to the game. But all of these things come from, suggestions in the community, and they all help to make the game better little by little, every single year. All right, we are going to move on. While I do this, Breeze has a question or a suggestion. When a D-League Select player gets drafted, it doesn't show the D-League team logo that player played for. I think having D-League logo show for a Select player when he gets drafted to make things easier. So, Breeze, are you talking about you want to see the D-League logo on his rookie card, or are you talking about like on the draft board itself, like when the player is drafted during the draft? And actually, and we can look at that. I scrolled ahead here to the workout stage, so we can take a look at the workout screen here. There's going to be some new things coming to this that I don't have built in yet, but we're going to kind of talk about them towards the end. But on the screen, people had asked to, when you pull up the rookie card here, which I just done, they wanted the combine results added to the rookie card. So I've added those right now, so you can see what his results from the combine were in his vertical, his dash, in his 3-point shooting, in his shooting off of the dribble, and shooting off of a cut. So, and some people ask, what do those numbers mean? What are they useful for? They're just bits and pieces that you can kind of piece together to figure something out about the player. Obviously, the 3-point shooting speaks for itself, of guys who, have a low 3-point shooting percentage from the combine, or a high one, will help you gauge, probably their ability to shoot threes. The off the dribble and off the cut will help you gauge their ability as a jump shooter in the 2-point range. And again, when the combine results are generated, they are generated as a one-time simulation. So, this guy shot 9 for 25 on threes. 36% isn't terrible. It's not the greatest, but it's not bad. He may have had an off day. He may have had a really good day. He may have had the day of his life to shoot 36%, and he's normally a 20% shooter or something like that. You don't know for sure, but the combine results gives you one more piece, of information you can use when you're drafting. So that information will be available to you in the draft now. So when you pull up a player card, you'll be able to find that. And of course, you can see that information on the combine results page here as well. Ribbons of Distinction. That's a new one in the stream. Good to see you here. He asks, have there been any changes to trades? I liked trades last year, just curious. I am working on some things with trades. I don't want to talk about them just yet because I haven't finished working on them, and I don't know if what I'm working on will actually work out, and I will stick with it. But there are some things I'm looking at there, trying to, continue to improve the ease of use of trades, and I think the AI does a really good job, and we worked on that a lot last year actually, so that things were valued, picks especially were valued more appropriately, and it became, I think the AI is maybe the best trading AI of any basketball game there is. In terms of fairness and deals, in terms of not being able to rip off the AI. So I really like where we're at with that. But I'm always looking to improve things to make it a little bit easier on you, because I do know that trading in basketball is tough because of the salary matching and things like that. So I am looking for ways to make it a little bit easier and more accessible. Breeze says when the player is drafted, if I select a D League player, the board shows a D League team logo where he played for. Yeah, I can add that, Breeze. If it's not doing that, I'll just make a quick note. And if anybody doesn't know what the D League select player means, during the season, there are some players that are generated that mimic real life now, where players are skipping college to go right into the D League. They play there for a year and then they can be drafted. That is mimicked in the game. So there are some players that will be added to your draft pool that were not college players, but they actually play games during the season on the D League teams, and you can track you know their progress through the course of the season that way. So you really get a lot more information about those players because they're actually having games simulated all season long. So in this draft pool here, you can see these players with this little icon here. They're tagged as DBL select players. So they're actually playing on these D League teams: Memphis, Stockton, Baton Rouge, Los Angeles, and Albuquerque. And you'll be able to you sim the season, and you can really get a good feel for those players. Kid Coffee Black asks, that's a good addition. Anyways, can we get ranks as well, like fifth, tied second there as well? Yeah, I don't. I can put that down, see if there's room for it. Let's see. Ribbons of Distinction says, I actually like choosing who I might trade with as opposed to a league-wide trade finder. Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to take anything away from trading, but maybe just add to it and add other options. I never like to take options away. I like to to give people more options to to continue to find ways that they like to play. And since we're on the future draft scouting page, that brings me to a big change that's coming to the game this year. We've already had a number of big changes that we've talked about: the brand new personality system, the totally revamped free agency system, where it's going to have player meetings that you kind of recruit players during those meetings, and offer them promises if you want to. The scouting is getting completely overhauled as well. So there's a lot of new stuff, a lot of big stuff coming to the game here for 2022. Draft scouting in the prior years has been somewhat confusing, I think, for people. They didn't really understand what was going on with the scouting points and things like that. And there were a lot of comments from especially new players that kind of felt that they not only didn't understand the purpose of what it was, but that they were getting lost during the drafting process, that they didn't really know how to use the information that was there. So we're going to totally revamp how scouting works, and we're also going to kind of make that information more clear I pulled up some of the rookie player cards earlier in the stream here. Those are going to get redone a little bit because there's going to be a lot more information, and hopefully more things that make you feel more comfortable when you're drafting, that you have kind of a better sense of what you're doing in the draft and all the information that's available to you. So down the right side here, this is completely new. Each team has a certain amount of scouting staff points. That part isn't new, and that part hasn't changed from last year. Those scouting staff points vary from team to team. I don't want to go into everything that goes into it, but certainly the amount of money that your owner is willing to spend on the team impacts the amount of scouting staff points you have. If you go to your team info page, that is where you can find out about your team owner and his willingness to spend, how important winning is to him, his patience level, his desire for superstars. So all that information is here for each owner of every team. If you go to the briefcase icon at the top here that says your office, you will be able to always go back and look at your job goals, which are set by the owner, your player budget, staff budget, the level of success he expects, and any roster demands that he has. Again, all of those are impacted by the owner's willingness to spend, his patience, his desire to win. All of those things factor into those goals. That willingness to spend factors into the amount of scouting staff points you have. So there are teams that will have staff points in the 200s. There are teams that have them in 400s. It all depends on how good of a general manager you are and how much the owner is willing to invest in the team. And obviously, the better of a GM that you are, the more he trusts you and the more he's willing to put in based on how much overall he's willing to spend. So these scouting staff points can be used between either the college players or anybody who's an international player, so anybody who's outside of the U.S. And there's 5 options for each region here. An important note, I always list, this is listed on the screen. Sometimes people forget that you cannot change the allocations after the regular season has started. So this is October 17th, which is the first date. And again, if you look at those alerts, it says right here, don't forget today's the final day you can assign your scouting points. Click the binoculars icon in the top menu, then assign your staff points on the scouting page. So that alert reminds you that once you get past opening day of the season, you cannot change these allocations. You'll see that there's, in the past, we just had 5 regions in the U.S. and 7 outside of the U.S. So you had 12 regions and you allocate a certain number of points amongst each of those regions. And then you would get some, you either got information revealed on the rookie card based on that, or you would get an occasional email about a player. And like I said, I think the concept was good behind it, but maybe the way it was delivered wasn't great. So this is definitely going to be a lot more understandable and a lot easier to use. So if you spend 25 points in the US or 30 internationally, you will get a quick ranking, which if you look down toward the bottom here, all of these things are explained. The scouts will provide a 1 to 5 star ranking. So on the player card, on the rookie, the prospect card, you will be able to see a scout rating that wasn't there earlier when I pulled that up because I haven't finished redoing the cards yet. But you will see a rating from your coaching staff for the overall, and you will see a rating from your scouting staff. So if you just choose to spend 25 points on each one of these things, then you'll see, at least a 1 to 5 star rating on the rookies. If you add in the scouting report gives you a short description of the player. So when you pull up that player card, the rookie card, there will be a written short description about him that has information which ties into his rating somehow. If you choose the playstyle option, that will give you the information on the rookie card about both how he likes to play in terms of how often he drives, how often he catches and shoots, drives and kicks, all those kind of things, plus the graphical information about where he spends his time. How often is he in the perimeter? How often is he in the corner? How often is he in the post? So you can get the information of the type of player he is and whether he'll fit your system. And Ribbons of Distinction says, he's sold. Will you take my money? Yes, I will take the money. And we will we'll be taking money fairly soon as we get into first access, but we'll hit that right after I finish this. For 100 points, you can get basic ratings. So you will get a letter grade A through F for the major categories: passing, scoring, ball handling, defense, rebounding, shot blocking, stealing, stuff like that. If you do not choose the basic ratings option, when the rookie card comes up, it has question marks for those categories. If you work out a player, and we looked at the workout screen earlier, there's those 20 guys or so that you get to work out before the draft. If you work out the player, you also get ratings. Now, you only get ratings for the players you work out. So if you don't spend, you don't want to spend the 100 points to get a rating for everybody, and you only care about, the guys that you're going to have interest in, you can save that 100 points, and you'll get the coaching staff ratings on the 20 guys that you work out during the workout period. So you can still get ratings on players. And again, they're not the same ratings that are used in the game itself, where there's number ratings. It's just a general A through F, in those skill categories, because you don't want to make it too specific, because you really don't know when you're drafting players. There's always that element of surprise and guesswork. But if you don't want to spend those 100 points or 125 points, you will get the ratings for the players that you do work out. The last option is called Deep Dive for either U.S. players or international players. That is going to give you a heads-up notification on the rookie cards for players that the scouts feel are either underrated or overrated. So that's something that's going to be completely new to the draft process, is getting the notification on some players. It won't be on all of them, because the vast majority of them they'll feel are scouted fairly accurately. But there may be players that they feel are not, and again, they won't be 100% right, because there's always got to be that that guesswork and the element of surprise in the draft. But they're players that maybe if things don't match up, maybe if the the media service says he's a 2-star, and your coaching staff or the scouting staff says he's a 4-star, and you have selected the deep dive option, and they tell you that he's typically an underrated player, then maybe you believe your coaching staff that they really have seen something in that player that the general media doesn't, and that the general consensus doesn't, and you might go after that player as he could be kind of a diamond in the rough, one of those players picked later in the draft that surprises everybody and turns out to be a really good player. Again, the information will not always be correct, but using that deep dive option will give you some indications on certain players that maybe the player isn't as good as everybody thinks he is, or maybe he's better than people think they are. So it's one more nugget of information you can use during the draft. And that's really the way I've always looked at the draft, is what it should be, is giving you as much information as possible without giving you the answer. And I think that makes the draft the most fun. I think it makes the draft the most realistic, because the general managers, they don't know exact about the players that they draft. They don't know for sure. Even number 1 picks turn out to be busts and flops like Anthony Bennett or Michael Olowokandi, something like that. Some turn out to be decent players, but never, true franchise guys. And some guys live up to the hype. Sometimes, LeBron is LeBron. So I want all of those scenarios to be possible for you when you go through the draft. The draft is, to me, the biggest focus of the game. So I want as much information for you to draw on, just like you're a real GM. You have input from your staff, you have input from the scouts, you have, all the numbers, you have, information you've gained from a private workout, you have, information that you've gained from, your scouts if you've chosen to do the deep dive on the player, that they've really evaluated this guy, and found something special. I want all of that at your fingertips before you have to make a pick on the clock. And I think that makes for a really exciting and interesting draft, in the game. And I think that we do the draft better than any sports game. I don't think that there's any sports game that puts as much effort as much into the presentation, into the the things you have to draft with. I think that it's clear to see how important the draft is in our games. So that's been a lot. Wow, we've covered quite a bit tonight on the stream. The one thing I did mention about being able to take your money soon, first access. I've had a couple of people ask me, how close are we on Pro Basketball 22, because they were thinking about buying Pro Basketball 21. First access will definitely be starting this month. So we are only, a couple weeks away. I want to kind of get into a couple of these last things that I have on my list, do a little bit more internal testing, and then we'll get into first access. First access, for anybody who doesn't know, we just went through it with Pro Football. You pre-order from us, you get a discount, you get access to the betas. You play test, help me find, the last remaining issues or any small suggestions and additions, and then we officially launch the game after a couple of weeks of that. So the official launch will come sometime in November, but first access not too far away from here. Ribbons of Distinction asks, one thing he wanted to do was start with modern day rosters and then use historical draft classes. Is that possible? Not exactly. There is an option where you can do the reverse, where you could start at a different period of time in the past and then have future draft class, have the draft classes jumbled up from there, so that you might get, it won't necessarily go in order, or it can go in order, whichever you like. But there's not the option of starting modern and using historical classes right now, especially if the historical data is there. Then it wouldn't make sense, because those players are either in the league or they're already in the almanac and stuff like that. But that's going to do it for the Developer Dynasty tonight. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you to our followers and especially our subscribers. I know we've had the messages going through the chat that if you have Amazon Prime, you get a free subscription on Twitch every month. If you can throw that free sub our way for a month or two, we certainly appreciate it. It helps us out, and doesn't cost you anything. If you have Amazon Prime, you get that one free sub you can use every month. So thanks everybody for being part of the Developer Dynasty this week. We'll be back next week to talk more about this scouting, the complete overhaul of scouting, show off how it works better, as well as talk about a couple of other things as we head into the final short period of time here before you get your hands on the game through first access. So thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Have a great week. Don't forget, Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2022 now available at WolverineStudios.com. It'll be available on Steam next week, and we'll be here with first access on Pro Basketball 22 very soon. Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.